My name is Eliana, and I'm the Religious and Cultural Vice President of Shizifti, our temple youth group. And today is Yom Ha'atzmaut, or the Israeli Independence Day, so I'm going to be making pita, or at least trying to. So the first thing is I'm going to add in yeast, flour, and warm water, and I'm going to whisk it for about 15 to 20 minutes until it's risen and it's like a spongy, bubbly substance. That's the flour. And the original recipe calls, it makes 8 servings, but I am only making 4. So, see you in 15 minutes. Okay, so it's risen, it's spongy, and so now I'm gonna add in olive oil and salt, which I probably could use a smaller bowl, but oh well, and flour. And I've also switched out the whisk for the hook, because now it's more kneading. So we're gonna do that. So the recipe says that you have to knead it for about 5 to 6 minutes, but because it's less, it did not take that long. So I'm gonna take it out of the bowl, put flour on the counter, and it's sort of, it's not completely stuck together, but I think if I knead it with my hands a little bit, then it will. Seems like a lot of flour, but we shall see how it turns out. Now, an interesting thing about Yom Ha'atzmaut is that Israel did not gain its independence that long ago. There are people still alive that remember the day. My grandma, for instance, was alive. So people remembering and celebrating are celebrating a time that exists, and they're remembering a time when they didn't have independence, which is a really cool thing, especially comparing to like July 4th, whereas we're celebrating something that we've always had. So, just sort of a different mentality. And this is going to turn into a ball. And then, oh yeah, so I have to wipe the inside of a bowl with olive oil so that it can rise in it. So this is olive oil. And also, fun thing about Yom Ha'atzmaut is that the day before it, not so fun, is Yom HaZikaron, which is basically Memorial Day. And what's really interesting is that they're one day after each other. So this year, Yom Ha'atzmaut is Wednesday, today, and Yom HaZikaron was yesterday, Tuesday. And it's a little bit different than our Memorial Day in that it's everyone has someone who they've lost in Israel, because everyone's been in the army, and since they gained independence so recently, they also lost people recently. So they spend their Memorial Day in cemeteries visiting their lost loved ones, which is obviously different than most of us, who we only remember and might have people who were there, but related to us who were here in America, but a lot of us also came after. Cover with a thin film of oil. More oil. Yay. This is my ball, and like I said, if you're doing the full recipe, then you'll probably have, well, not probably, you will have a larger ball than me, but, so just imagine this, but larger. Or not, if you're doing the same amount, because I don't know how much you want. Or, if you were doubling the recipe, then you'd have a lot more. That's my olive oil covered ball. Then, cover bowl with foil and let sit until the dough has doubled in size. So, 1 second. So I have covered my bowl in saran wrap. It says foil, but saran wrap should probably be fine also, and then I'll be able to see if it's risen, which it's supposed to double in size. So I'll be back in about 2 hours to see that it has hopefully risen. Okay, I'm back. It hasn't been that long for you, but I promise time has passed. So, it's been about 2 hours, I would say. And it has become larger, so that's fun. Putting it on a cutting board that I've covered in flour. That off. And we're just gonna plop it. That's a cooking term. And flatten it out. It's up to about like 1 inch. And as I'm doing that, I will share a good point that my mother made. Is that the reason that everybody knows someone to visit in a cemetery or someone who has died is not entirely because Israel gained its independence so recently. It's also because Israel is very small, and also they have a lot of wars and bombings and places for people to die, so there are lots of chances to know someone who has died. That's might as well be 1 inch. And then, probably not supposed to be circular because then it's hard to make it into equal pieces, but it's a circle. So I'm gonna cut it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna cut it into 4 relatively equal pieces, and then I'm going to make them into balls. With this last one, I'm just going to show you what I've been doing. So I fold each end in, and then sort of just shape it around it so that the top is smooth. So it ends up like kind of squished at the bottom, like pinched, and just go around. And it's not sticky, and it's pretty stiff, but it'll stay like that. Yay! Okay, now I'm going to lightly coat them in oil. I'll just pour it onto the, and just roll in it. And it doesn't have to be a lot, so just coat it enough to be slimy, shall we say. Okay, now they are coated lightly in oil, and now I'm going to wrap them in saran wrap. Here they are coated in saran wrap, and I'm gonna come back in about 30 minutes to cook them. So that's fun. Okay, time has passed. It's been more than 30 minutes because I had to eat dinner, but it doesn't matter that much because it just means it had more time to rise or expand, which I feel like it did. So now I'm gonna unwrap them all and make them into little pitas, and they're gonna be thinner than they were at the beginning before I cut them and rolled them, because they're gonna puff up hopefully when I cook them over the fire. So about like that thick all the way around, but like this part is how it's gonna be. And they're pretty big. They'll probably get bigger. So yeah, I'm gonna do this with all of them, and then I'll see you over yonder. Except not right away, because I felt like I was making a pizza, except better, because instead of pizza, it's pita. So that was fun. Okay, so now I am by the stove. The pan is right here. All of my pitas are like this. And I'm just gonna start cooking them. So basically, they sit like that. I get a spatula and wait for them to darken on one side. It's supposed to take like about 3 minutes, but we'll just keep a watch on them. And then you flip it to the other side, and oh, they're poofing. They're gonna poof, and it'll poof, and then it'll make a hole in the inside, and you cut it, and then it's pita, and you can put stuff in it, and that's fun. So this is what they look like right before I'm about to flip them, but this has been about 3 minutes, so I'm gonna flip them. See you on the flip side. Here we have the other sides. They look very nice and brown. They're supposed to be black, so I probably could have left them on there for a little longer, but I think it's okay. Also, the recipe called for a cast iron skillet, which I did not have, so I'm using this pan instead. And I don't see why it wouldn't work just as well. You could always use like a regular pan. All you need is heat, I say, in my non-expert opinion. I flipped them over again. Here's the other side after about 2 minutes, which is interesting because like that one over there cooked more than other ones, but maybe that's just because it was in more oil. But yeah, they've definitely blown up, and once they cool off, well, once I take them off and then they cool off, I'll cut them open and see how they are on the inside. Get them off the heat. I put them back on the cutting board because like the plate wasn't big enough, but they look really nice. And let me see. Yeah, the other side, it's also very nice. Looks like it's hot. Which I guess that makes sense. But yeah, they look really good, and they look poofed, and I'm very excited about it. So I'll let that cool, and then I'll come back and see how they look on the inside. So here we have the pitas. They are cooled. So now I'm going to cut them open. So technically this makes 8. Well, the original recipe makes 16, but technically this makes 8 because when you cut them, you know, they double. Alright, so this one, there's not really a hole, but there's enough space that you could cut it open if you really wanted to, or you can just dip it. They definitely poofed. They definitely... Oh, this one kind of has a hole. It's not very practical, but definitely there's a little bubble there. You can kind of see it opens. Oh. Yeah, so this one also, that was a nice space, and I could probably cut it more this way and see what happens. So this is my pita, and it smells like pita. and it tastes like pita. So yay! Happy Yom Ha'atzmaut!